hello, how's it going, people? Welcome to the stream. Hope everyone's having a great Tuesday. It's kinda nuts when you don't have football, let's be real. International break is kinda killing the vibes and everything all over the place. But I guess we have to make amends with that. In a month we have another international break, which obviously, again, is gonna make things a whole lot worse and a whole lot goddamn boring, let's be real. But obviously, the life doesn't stop, at least surrounding Arsenal and football in general. Of course, either it's games, either it's something else. We're gonna talk about it. So today, we're gonna talk about transfer links. Ironically enough, since it's just October and everything, we're gonna talk about Bukayo Saka. We're gonna talk about Thomas Partey, which again is not good news, but maybe it's good news. Hard to tell. Similar like with Kai Havertz. There's some talk. We're gonna talk about a bit about Jesus and other players, and overall we're gonna talk about Arsenal, and more specifically when I mentioned Saka, what we're gonna talk about today is, does Saka need some extra help? If that makes any sense. So, if you're new around here, of course, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, get live interactive in the chat. If you're watching this as a playback, of course, leave a comment down below. And yeah, I think without further ado, we're gonna get straight into things. We're gonna talk about per se about certain aspects of Arsenal that came out today, and of course we're gonna kick things off. Ironically enough, a player we kind of discussed quite a bit about yesterday. We're gonna talk about Kingdom Kai, Killer Kai, Kai Havertz. Big up coach in the chat, big up. Love you always on time, big up brother, looking forward to the show. Thank you so much for dropping by, thank you so much for being here, fan freaking tasking. I try to be at least on time. I try to basically get a proper schedule like every single day or so, basically at 6 p.m. UK time. If I upload a video when I'm not streaming, I also tend to stride around 6 p.m., maybe 8 p.m. UK time, so it's either or. Streams, it obviously depends, but usually it's the 6 p.m. unless it's a game day, so it's a bit different, of course. But Dimitar Berbatov has spoken on Kai Havertz, obviously. We spoke about fair bit about Kai Havertz yesterday as well. And Dimitar Berbatov, obviously one of those strikers that didn't look like they're gonna do much. At the same time, he was very deceiving, very good striker, to be honest, in my opinion. Good take, good finishing ability. Not the fastest one, but he always managed to get in good spots. Similar like Kai Havertz, let's be real. And he said, I like Kai Havertz as a player. He has that flair, sometimes floating into the games, and that's why it reminds me a bit of myself, obviously, and I can see the resemblance, let's just say that. Although I don't like comparing players from different generations, but I like watching him, to be honest. And you could say that there are some similarities between Kai Havertz and Dimitar Berbatov. Obviously, Kai Havertz in Premier League, in my opinion, needs to do quite a bit still to get compared to Dimitar Berbatov. And to be honest, I hate these comparisons about players in general. Oh, he is the next Messi, the next Bukayo Saka, the next Mohamed Salah, the next, I don't know, Nesta, the next Maldini, the next stuff like that. How about focus on the player and let him be just himself and the next big thing himself, not compare him to other players. When he has established himself, when he has gotten to a certain height, yes, you can say that there's some similarities in certain play styles, maybe because it has been influenced as he was growing up. But overall, I hate these comparisons. Like, it puts unnecessary pressure. It generates like not objective and not natural, but very unnatural hype and expectations from certain players, which ultimately, especially if you are in Premier League, media-wise, it could drive player into the ground and totally destroy his confidence because he thinks he needs to live up to that. So, in that essence, I don't like it. But Dimitar Berbatov has spoken on Kai Havertz, and it has been quite interesting that he actually says that many things that he has said. Anyways, Thomas Partey, this is the big one. Coming from Charles Watts, at sometimes Kappa Watts, of course, but Thomas Partey has been pulled out from Ghanaian national team. And Thomas Partey will remain in London with Arsenal over the upcoming international break, which is good news, to be honest, because Partey, usually when he goes to international break, he comes back injured, and it's never good things for Arsenal long term, of course. The 31-year-old has played every game for Arsenal so far this season, which is actually kind of nuts if you think about it, due to his injuries. But if you recall, 2 seasons ago he played almost quite a bit of games, almost whole season, and injuries weren't an issue, and he was one of our best players until the last about 10 games when he fell off. I think got gassed or something. But which is the longest run in consecutive games he's ever played for the club at the beginning of the season. Usually in the beginning of the season he is injured before the season begins. Partey apparently is suffering from illness, and it's not an injury. It is just a flu or something like that. Obviously, it's autumn at the moment, not just in where I live. It's quite a bit of part of the world, especially in UK. It's getting colder, rain is falling and everything. And there is a possibility of you catching the flu, the sniffles, cough and all that stuff. And Partey apparently has something in those terms. And he will rest over the next week as a precaution, according to Charles Watts. The big thing is, though, there were some reports I was reading. I was kind of trying to look a bit deeper into this because with Thomas Partey, usually it tends to be something more deeper than it says on the tin. Basically, it's just tip of the iceberg, if you will. And I was going through some Ghanaian sports reports, and they were claiming that it's been done on purpose, that Thomas Partey is not injured, he just doesn't want to go to international duty, and it's because Arsenal want to keep him. And to be honest, fair play. I don't care. Fair play in this instance. Obviously, Ghanaian national team and everything, they technically should be wanting him, they would need him and everything, but definitely they have a big game against, I think they're playing Sudan this international break and some other lower end side. And do they really need Thomas Partey to beat team like Sudan? Let's be real. No, they don't. Obviously, the Ghanaian national team hasn't had the best of starts. In the cup, they have had some underwhelming draws and everything, so it is what it is there in that regard. But Thomas Partey staying, similar like Kai Havertz, is good news for Arsenal, and I think Arsenal should do it a bit more often, even if it's dark arts in a sense, or is it just a precaution? Arsenal should be doing this more, because usually when we send out our players, there's a bigger chance than not often they come back injured, and that is never a good thing for the club. Obviously, it gets manager pissed off and everything. It's the same like with Odegaard and Norway, because did Norway really need Odegaard to play against Kazakhstan? Because as bad as it sounds, once Odegaard got injured, they scored instantly 2 goals. They somehow got there, but obviously it is what it is. Norway actually is one of those teams that have a quite stunning attack, but defensively, midfield-wise, goalkeeper-wise, they are quite lacking. I'm not gonna lie, and that is actually quite a bit of an instance for many many countries. If you look at, let's say, Poland, yes, they have Kiwior, they have still, I think they have Grzegorz Krychowiak, they have Zielinski and stuff like that, but attack is their best sword, and it goes also. I think also, I don't want to speak for every national team that is not the top end tier, but many of them usually have one of the big things. Either you have a stunning midfield or stunning attack or stunning defense, and they're lacking in other instances. And in a way, Ghana is also one of those teams, but I think they should be dealing with Sudan and teams like that without Thomas Partey. It's quite interesting that that Thomas Partey gets injured. Well, in quotation marks, injured. He has some sort of illness as soon as he plays right back for Arsenal. Because last year it was the same thing, if my memory doesn't deceive me. In the start of the season, he played right back for Arsenal. Gabriel was benched for some random goddamn reason, who knows still. But he came out from this Fulham game, I think it was, injured. He was injured after playing right back, so it's kind of ironic in that instance, but the good news is he's staying. He is not. There will be less of a risk of him going to international duty and getting injured. Because the last time he was there, they drew against the team. There were balls thrown around. The fans invaded the pitch because the Ghanaian team had very subpar, very questionable performance. If my memory doesn't deceive me. So, Partey staying in a way is very good news for Arsenal. Same goes for Havertz. Although Havertz's instance looks a bit worse compared to in general. Do I have it saved? I think I had it saved, yes. With Havertz, it looks a bit worse because Arsenal expect Kai Havertz to be fully fit after international break. According to Sunsport, which already it's the Sun, so the most trustworthy place in the world, take this with insane amount grains of salt and pinches of salt, yeah. They understand that Havertz has been managing a minor issue since the end of last season. And that is obviously, imagine if he's doing this while still being injured. How good he could actually be for Arsenal after the international break. If he actually, during this international break, during this period, he actually manages to heal that injury fully. That actually could be kind of insane to think about, actually. But yeah, in order to avoid any further damage or stress, he will remain at the club during the break, which obviously is a bit of a worry, a bit of a scare for Arsenal fans, giving our number 9 issues at the moment, because Kai Havertz is the only number 9 who can score on consistent basis. We covered this yesterday. Jesus doesn't look like it whatsoever. Maybe we can try and push Martinelli through middle overall, but if Havertz goes down, we are kind of screwed, aren't we, in a way? It would be the time for Jesus to step up. But from what we have seen so far, Jesus, I don't know. Genuinely don't know at the moment. Because he couldn't even score against Bolton, and we put 5 past Bolton. He didn't do anything. He kind of was slowing down and kind of disrupting our attack even against Southampton since he started the game. So it could be very Peakham's actually if Havertz gets injured. And to be honest, if you think about it, what has everything come to, in a way, that I, for example, and I think many Arsenal fans as well, are worried that Kai Havertz is injured. Because, let's be real, I'm going to be one of those Arsenal fans who's going to admit it. I wasn't the biggest fan of signing Kai Havertz. But slowly and steadily, he's becoming one of our main guys, one of our star players, and he's proving doubters, including myself, wrong. And we have come to a point where Havertz's slight knee injury, as it's been reported here and we talked about yesterday, is getting on my nerves. It's getting me scared to the level that I'm kind of scared what's going to happen if actually it's a long-term injury. Because we don't look very safe in that number 9 spot. And that was the reason why I was very critical and very angry during the transfer shows, during the summer transfer window, with the fact that we haven't signed a striker. That was the sole reason. Because I said we cannot rely on Jesus because he's injury prone. Jesus at the moment isn't injured. And he looks like a massive shadow of himself, like he looked when we signed him. Because when we just signed him, before we went to Qatar and the World Cup, he looked actually very good. I was looking at him, looking how he was distributing the ball, how he was scoring, doing skills and everything, and it looked like, okay, it looks like we have a proper player there to a certain extent. But he went down for Brazil. He had 3 knee surgeries and everything, or 2, but it's the 3 times he has injured the same knee. And at the moment, it's like we have Brazilian Eddie Nketiah as a backup. And if we just got rid of the English Eddie Nketiah, the Nketiah himself, and at the moment we have Brazilian Eddie Nketiah on the bench. And that is generally not boding well for Arsenal long term. And if Arsenal don't sign a striker in January, and this keeps up, it could get very rough, because at the moment it feels like we cannot rely on Jesus up top. If Havertz goes down, everything will rest on Jesus' shoulders. And at the moment, the way he's playing, he is not ready, in my opinion, to carry the workload what Havertz carries, do things Havertz does, and score the goals actually Havertz is scoring at the moment, unless he somehow picks up the form. So this is very, very, very weird one for me in general. And speaking of Jesus, apparently Arsenal have refused to sell Gabriel Jesus. But, don't get it twisted. Arsenal apparently have no intention of parting ways with Gabriel Jesus in this January transfer window. We are not talking about summer transfer window in the season, but specifically in this January transfer window. Which in a way brings also the fact that, and brings also with itself a statement, an indication that in this January transfer window we are not signing a striker. There's a big chance of that. Because for me, if there was a chance to sell Jesus and us reinvest that money in a proper striker, I would be all for that. But I think Arsenal have looked at this and is thinking that in summer we're gonna go and get a striker, most likely. Because it is coming to a point, I think, where Mikel Arteta and Edu themselves are realizing that Jesus is not it up top, and Havertz is our only outlet option. And for him to carry us throughout the whole season, not sure he will be able to. Because still I believe that he is a bit too inconsistent in finishing these chances. We need a player who converts many chances he gets, and Havertz tends to miss the ones that actually sometimes matter the most. And prime example was against Brighton when we were down to 10 men. He had this one-on-one, brilliant first touch to sell the ball, and he shot it pretty much straight at the keeper. Goalkeeper made a great saves with his legs. So I think if it was a proper striker, most likely that goes in. And it looks like this has a massive indications that we are not signing a striker, at least in January. Whether it's going to happen or not obviously remains to be seen. And the big question also is, what's going to happen with Trossard? Because Saudi have already come in for him. Obviously it got rejected, and if we accepted that, that would be just foolish at the time when it came in. But I don't think that is also the end of Trossard's saga. Either it will be in January or either next summer. I think Saudis will come in for him once again. Whether it will be the same team remains to be seen, but there definitely will be some interest surrounding Leandro Trossard per se as well. At least that's the way I see it at the moment. Whether it's going to happen or not remains to be seen. But there are quite a bit of demand of certain Arsenal players at the moment. Arsenal are kind of they're in the need to get rid of certain players, actually to sign certain players. So whether it's going to happen or not, I guess we just have to sit tight and wait, I guess. Big up Nick in the chat. Big up Nick in the chat. Moving on Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney's future at Arsenal, as it was predetermined almost for quite some time now, is done. It was still under a bit of a mystery because he got injured in Euros with Scotland. He came back. Obviously, injured players, it's pretty much impossible to sell unless there's a team who is willing to take that and actually pay the wages and sign him and basically treat him. Obviously, Arsenal are prime example in that. We signed Kim Kallstrom, who was injured, Fabio Vieira with a broken leg, Cedric as well, I think it was. So Arsenal are prime example in that. But at the same time, as good as Kieran Tierney is staying back, as he's a proper old school defending left back, he has never had a proper shot at being in this Arsenal team because he just doesn't fit Mikel Arteta's vision. And obviously he has been registered for Champions League team for Arsenal. So the question also bears, will he play there? Or is he just there to basically keep up the numbers? So we don't have to register certain youth players and don't have to drag them pretty much all around the Europe when we go on away trips. So that is also the big question. But what Charles Watts is saying and claiming is that Kieran Tierney is not in Mikel Arteta's plans anymore. There is no animosity there. He knows the club has moved on and that his qualities as a left back are not what Arsenal need in the system that they play. Tierney is continuing to work his way back to full fitness after an awful hamstring injury suffered at the Euros. Had that injury not happened, I'm sure Tierney would have been playing for another club right now. And to be honest, it stands to a reason. There was a big chance that Arsenal would have sold Tierney if he wasn't injured. There definitely were takers for him. The injury just threw everyone off because we are in mid-August pretty much, and he still hasn't recovered. Which again means that if any team sign him, they instantly would have signed an injured player who would be out for two months in the season already. And that is pretty much what, 25% of the season done. Especially if you have multiple competitions, which obviously, in my opinion, stands to actually some common sense in that regard. He will hope to get the move in January, probably alone, obviously, so he can get some minutes somewhere ahead of summer when he can try and secure a permanent move away. Now, the big question is, Kieran Tierney's contract, I think it runs out in 2026. Yeah, so basically, in the next summer, when it's going to be next summer, yeah, when it will be June 2025, Tierney will have 1 year left on his contract, which means Arsenal need to sell him pretty much on ASAP. because if they don't, they will lose money instantly. He will go on free afterwards. So Arsenal are in this predicament. Obviously, Arsenal is not going to make any money back on him. They will make some money back, but they will not break it. Sorry, they will not break even, or they will actually not get any ROI whatsoever. They cannot even dream about it on him, given the wages and the money we spent on him. So Arsenal will probably let him go on cheap. To where? It's still a mystery, let's be real. It all remains to be seen. But the way Arsenal are playing at the moment, it's pretty much safe to say, Tierney, we're not going to see him in an Arsenal shirt once again. Which is a bit of a blow because I really like Tierney. The injuries is the biggest issue, because there was a time when he was playing. I think it was also before Mikel Arteta was under Emery and stuff like that. People were screaming for him to become the club captain. But it's kind of hard to put a captaincy on a player who is missing like 30% of the season, if not more. So it actually stands to a reason why he didn't become a captain and why he didn't go anywhere. But the thing is, Tierney just doesn't fit the system Arsenal want to play under Mikel Arteta. There are multiple, to be honest, countless teams where Tierney would fit to a T, if you actually think about it. That is also the case why, let's just say, I don't want to say this at the moment, but if Arteta would go, right, Arsenal would bring in someone similar manager, which means Tierney wouldn't work. But if Arsenal just would get someone like, I don't know, Inzaghi, for example, right, from Inter Milan, Tierney would fit to that team to a T. Same goes for Calafiori and everything. I'm just saying that as a hypothetical scenario. But the way Arsenal are at the moment playing, with inverting, pushing forward and doing all of that stuff, Tierney just doesn't excel in that. He's an old school defender, old school left back who likes to defend, who likes to overlap, who can cross the ball and do stuff like that. He doesn't want to invert, distribute the ball, dictate the gameplay in a way as well. We have players who can do that to much more higher standard than Kieran Tierney. Defensively though, I think he's very solid. He can play left back, left center back, similar like Calafiori. Obviously, he offers more going forward than Calafiori offers more going forward. And that is the big case in this instance, at least. But yeah, ultimately, it looks like Tierney's time at Arsenal is done. When he's gonna go remains to be seen. Maybe even in January we might sell him. Who knows? There's actually might be a case, but so far it looks like most likely in January it's most likely gonna be a loan. And next summer, with 1 year left on his contract, he will be seeking a new club to play for. Big up Nathan in the chat. Big up, big up, big up. And yeah, so it is what it is. But we have to move on. We have to move on. And we are moving on to Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard. Which is very interesting, to be honest. Because nobody on this planet Earth, besides Arsenal themselves, let's be real, and the staff and players there, know what is happening with Martin Odegaard. Nobody knows. Let's be real. Nobody knows. Everyone's hoping it's nothing serious. He will be back as soon as possible. It kind of looks like Arteta is maybe playing some silent games, some silent phones and stuff like that. Just don't want to disclose any information. But Arsenal are hopeful that Martin Odegaard will be involved in their Premier League clash with Liverpool on October 27, despite him still being weeks away from full fitness. Now, this seems like a massive, massive stretch in my opinion. Very massive long-term stretch. Because for Odegaard to even be eligible in a way to play against Liverpool, right, in October 27th, at worst, he should be back in training, I would say, no more than a week from now. And at the moment, there are no pictures of him doing any sort of type of training, which again leads me to believe that this is more of a wish than anything. And the fact that it says that Arsenal are just hopeful already gives that implication, gives that energy about the fact that most likely it's not going to happen. Because the way it's been so secretive, there have been no reports of the duration of the injury. Nobody knows how long it's going to be. Is it very serious or whatnot? It leads me to believe that it's not going to happen. For me, most likely Odegaard, in my opinion, will be back mid-November, if not late November. In my opinion, it most likely will be after the November international break. I think this October 27 type of situation is just a wishful thinking in general. Because for him to play, he should be training right now. During this international break, he should be back in training with the team and trying to pick up the fitness, the stamina, pick up the pace again. Because let's be real, his leg is done. His ankle is hurt and he can't do anything. Yeah, he can go to the gym and lift some weights for arms, for chest and everything. But anything that involves using his leg, he cannot do. So he cannot run. He cannot do leg push-ups or anything. He cannot use legs basically to kind of train them to train. So it is a bit of an iffy one. Obviously, it will take some time for him to come back. So in my opinion, I don't see him playing in October 27th. I don't see him. Maybe on the bench if we get lucky, but that is straight 19 days from now, which means he needs at least 2 weeks to get back to some sort of shape. So he needs to basically start training right now. So it is, in my opinion, as I said, more wishful thinking than anything. It's basically to get the hopes up, because at the moment, given that there are no news from Arsenal or anyone else that Odegaard has been seen in training, that he is training, that he's doing even individual work without any contact with the teammates or anything, hasn't been no reports whatsoever. At least from what I've seen. Maybe you have seen in the chat who are watching at the moment. If you have, let me know. But I haven't seen anything. So I don't think this is going to happen. This is just a hope. Basically, this is a massive, massive hope and pray that it could happen. But I just don't see it. I'm sorry, very sorry for saying this, but I just don't see it at the moment. Italy versus Belgium. Calafiori shouldn't tackle Trossard or else more injuries. And to be honest, Calafiori is gonna play left back, Trossard is gonna play left wing. They should not meet. Hopefully, they shouldn't meet like mid-game unless there's a corner or some sort of situation, but obviously you never know given how Calafiori plays. The big issue is what's gonna happen with Calafiori, because when he plays for Arsenal, he does a lot. Let's be real, he does a lot. He pushes up ahead. He plays almost all across the front three, front like 6 positions even. Defensively, yes, I'm not gonna judge him anymore to the certain level, because I think I've been kind of too harsh for him that he pushes ahead and he leaves the gaps on defense. I've been rewatching some replays of the games of Calafiori's actions, paying specific attention to that, and you can see he's trying to get back, but you can see also that he has come from Italian league and it will take him time to adjust to the pace of the game, because going forward he can do things. Defensively is the place where he's gonna struggle for some period of time until he gets adjusted to that. At least that's how I see it. Going forward, he helps a lot. He plays all across. He can distribute the ball. He can shoot it. He can do everything. Defensively, getting back, that will be the biggest call for him to adapt. That most likely will be the biggest challenge. So let's see how that goes. But Italy versus Belgium, Trossard versus Calafiori could be a nuts one. I'm not gonna lie, could be a nuts one, especially if in the heat of the moment somehow one tackles the other, the one gets injured. Not gonna lie. They will be annoyed and pissed, and you can bet your sweet cookie once two of them come back from international break, Arteta will whoop some ass. If that would be the case, if something like that happened, Arteta I think would go ballistic already with the given issues we already have, especially in those defensive spots in a way. So it is what it is. Now moving swiftly on, there are some other news. Obviously, Arsenal are considering changing their matchday protocols with the fact that attempt to avoid repeat of Conor McGregor's incident. The club did not appreciate the images, obviously. Basically, I guess it is what it is. Apparently, McGregor was there without permission, from what I understand. He was all there without permission, in a way. So it was a bit of a yikes one in that instance for Arsenal. But overall, I generally believe, I think they are looking too much into it than there actually was. They were just playing around. Obviously, sometimes mistakes and accidents happen, but for me, it's nothing big. Basically, what Arsenal are trying to do here is just they're trying to protect their players, because I don't see it as a big thing. Obviously, it's just for Arsenal in general. And of course, one of the big news is that Man City have entered the race to sign Zubimendi from Sociedad after Rodri's injury, and they are ready to recruit him in January. I think 2 days ago we spoke about this fact that, or yesterday even, that City have set aside about 80-90 million to sign a defensive midfielder to replace Rodri, and it looks like it might be Zubimendi. So it will be very interesting to see how that develops specifically with Zubimendi and stuff like that, because he turned down Liverpool. So let's see what he says about Manchester City. Moving on to this one. This is a nuts one, by the way. This is genuinely a nuts one. I forget that Calafiori is 22, still has a lot to learn and levels go. Exactly. Calafiori is still 22. Already, the fact that an Italian, usually when he comes to Premier League, very rarely they hit the ground running, and specifically defensively, pretty much none of them work out. We have seen this with Ogbonna, Emerson, Santon, and players like that. Now, if he works, it's one in a million, obviously, and it looks like so far it could work. We just need to give him time, basically. We just need to be patient and see what's gonna happen with that. McGregor was playing ball on the pitch. Net's already taken down, I think it's so. Well, maybe it's to protect the pitch or something, but yeah, I think Arsenal basically are just trying to protect their investments in players, in the stadium and everything. They're just trying to protect themselves in that instance. Because overall, there was nothing bad happening with that. Like, if you look at the overall picture, it was just a situation which obviously easily could have been avoided. Let's just say it like that. And this was the nuts one for today. I was at work, working, stuff like that, took a bit of a pause, and then this came. This basically was spat out on my timeline. Opta analyst, this is one of the supercomputers and crap like that, whatever it's called. It's early days, but 24-25 Premier League table based on Opta data expected points model throws up some interesting results. This is basically comparing actual and expected position in Premier League. I think that's including XGs, other instances where basically things that happen in game and that could have, basically that's a shoulda, woulda, coulda scenarios. Let's just say it like that, right? And this is kind of a mad one. Liverpool, based on that, should be first. Chelsea, second. City, third. Spurs, fourth, but actually are ninth, right? Aston Villa, fifth. Fulham are expected sixth, but are eighth. Bournemouth are expected seventh, but are 13th. But Arsenal, and this is the big one, are comparing actual, where they are third, an expected position based on the data Arsenal have accumulated so far this Premier League season, they should be 8th. So basically, United is 10th expected but are 14th and everything, right? So basically, what this is saying is that Arsenal are heavily overperforming based on what they have done. This is basically what they are saying, I think, at the moment. The thing is, though, Arsenal are overperforming based on the... exactly. The way I understand is Arsenal are overperforming. It's utter woke nonsense, exactly. The thing is, though, if you can spin it two ways. Either you can spin it that Arsenal are awful and they don't deserve to be third, or you can look at this and think it like this: Arsenal are third based on the certain instances they have created and on cumulative points and stats and stuff like that, where they should be eighth. Which means if Arsenal actually click into gear, Odegaard comes back, we can avoid injuries, that number will go highly up. And Arsenal will actually live up to certain expectations, as weird as it sounds. So in this instance, it kind of makes me to believe that there is lots of room still for Arsenal to grow. Because obviously, you have to take in context that Arsenal have had 2 reds against City and Brighton. They have drawn those 2 games. Arsenal have won the rest of the games. Yeah, 5 wins, 2 draws. Arsenal have done the rest of the stuff pretty good. The thing is though, it's basically based on the fact that we are creating quite a bit, but we are scoring nothing of that. That is basically what this is saying. And if it's based on that, Arsenal are already third based on the... Arsenal should be 8th based on the something like that. Or am I reading this other way around? I'm kind of starting to confuse myself. We are literally 1 Dubai trip away from scoring 6. We don't have time to fly to Dubai though. We actually don't have time to fly to Dubai. Because this season there will be no breaks, no nothing. The games will come thick and fast. We won't have Dubai breaks. Wait. I wanna understand this. It's early days, but 24-25 Premier League table based on Opta's expected points model throws up some interesting results. Expected points model. Wait, is this like something Arsenal should be at the end of the season? Maybe. Oh, sorry. Where is it? Here it is. Wait. Oh, here we go. Liverpool's position at the top of the table is... How does it work? Well, our experience points model simulates the number of goals scored by each side in each match based on the expected XG value over shots taken. It then uses the simulated number of goals to determine the match outcome, win, draw, or loss. Each match is then simulated at 10,000 times. The expected points... Wait, can you read this actually? Oh, you can. That's good. That is actually good. Wait. The expected points for each team in each match can then be calculated based on the proportion of simulations they win, draw, or lose. So basically, based on this Opta analyst data, Arsenal should be 8th at the moment. Arsenal should be 8th based on the data Opta analyst has calculated. Arsenal should be 8th. That's basically based on the XG we have created based on the accumulative shots during the games and the goals we have scored. And if you think about it, it kind of stands to a reason. Obviously, I generally believe exactly that was about to say. Does it factor in injuries? I generally believe it doesn't factor in injuries, red cards, and certain instances on the game. That will be... Alisson and Kelleher probably out for Arsenal game. So they gonna, what, put Mamardashvili in goal for one game? Or who they gonna use then? But yeah, back to the point. So that, in my opinion, doesn't include red cards, injuries, and stuff like that. So basically, what this is saying... Arsenal are not creating enough to be in the 3rd place. Arsenal, based on the chances they have created in XG, goals scored and the shots taken, should be 8th. Based on this. Yet somehow we are 3rd. So basically what they're saying, we are overperforming based on those stats. Which means, if Arsenal start to score goals actually, and not waste their chances, it means that Arsenal will instantly shoot up in the table. They might be 2nd or 3rd, actually, but the expected place should also shoot up to be 2nd, 3rd, or even 1st. So basically, if I understand this properly, it all comes down to the fact that we cannot finish our dinner. Correct? We basically create, but we don't get enough shots on target, we don't get enough goals, and yeah, it basically comes down to that, if I'm not mistaken. As wild as it may seem. Or is it the case? Or is it the case? Arsenal 24-25 stats. Let's see this. Yeah, it's nothing great here, to be honest. 4-2, 4... we have scored, I think, enough goals in that instance overall. I just don't think we have, like, wait, if we look at this, wait, I want to check this now. This is now starting to kind of intrigue me a bit. So season started against Wolves, right? Season started against Wolves. If we look at this, how did this go? Statistics, here we go. Arsenal basically, 18 shots and 6 on target. That's every third shot going on target, which instantly means that XG is kind of screwed up, isn't it? Like, wait. This is kind of nuts if you think about it overall. Now, shut up. Let's go Arsenal. And let's look at stats in general. Yeah, if you look at this, Arsenal had, for example, against Southampton, right? This is Southampton game. We won this game. We had 2.83 XG, 29 shots, 6 on target. Which basically I think comes overall with the fact that Arsenal are not getting enough shots on target. Arsenal created 1.83 from open play, 1 XG from set plays, 1 XG from set plays. So basically it comes down to that. Wait, if we look at other games Arsenal have played, right? Teams. Wait. Arsenal Premier League. If we look at other teams, this is now starting to get kind of interesting, I'm not gonna lie. Leicester City game. Stats. Where are the stats for Leicester City game? Again, 35 shots, 16 on target. So basically 0.5. 4.6 XG, we scored 4 goals. So that is actually not that bad. 3.39 from open play, 1.2 from set pieces. Okay, that's that. Now, Manchester City again will be totally, utterly in the dumps. We got a red card, so we have to take that into account. And yeah, see, against City, we have 0.67 XG. Only 5 shots, 3 on target. 0.67 XG, but we scored 2 goals. So if we round it up even, we have scored 1 more goal than we should have. In this instance, we have scored 1.5 more goals nearly than we should have. So basically it has come to the fact that we kind of have outperformed ourselves. We have outperformed the certain XGs and stuff like that by the looks of things. Against Spurs, how did we do? Because it looks like, at least it looks that way. Yeah, we won 1-0. We had 0.7 XG, only 7 shots, 4 on target. Brighton, I definitely looks very bad, I think. I think at least. Stats. Yeah, Brighton, right? Yeah, we had 2.14 XG. We only scored 1 goal. We had brilliant chances to score. We just didn't take them. So basically, Arsenal are kind of overperforming based on XG. But at least gameplay-wise, it also sometimes... Yeah, see? 0.87 XG in general. And we scored 2 goals against Aston Villa. So basically, Arsenal don't get the best XG, and they scored the insane amount of goals. That's what they are saying, basically. Again, 2-0 win, 1.24 XG. So basically, what they're saying in this regard is the fact that Arsenal have basically outscoring and outperforming the amount they should be getting. That's why they have put us 8th, basically. Because they have the same stats on all the 10,000 games, and they just see whatever, the randomizer for draws, wins, and losses. So it all obviously accumulated the fact that we should be 8th at the moment, potentially. Arsenal have highest XG 11 versus 11 this season. Basically 2.3 XG for us versus 0.10 against when it's 11. Exactly, that is the case. We have played 2 games, 11 versus 10. We haven't done that great in those regards. Teams do well, but the biggest thing is basically, Arsenal have the overall good XG, but there are certain games where Arsenal basically have low XG, but they score 2 times or 3 times more than XG actually kind of predicts we should be scoring. And that's why basically this Opta analyst is saying that we should be 8th. Because we are outperforming the XG. And that's why you cannot base goddamn everything on stats. That's why you cannot base certain things on stats only. You need to look at performances. You need to look at human factor in the games. Because we had 0.87 XG against Aston Villa and we scored 2 goals. Based on XG, it should be at best 1-1 or 1-0 Arsenal. But since these stats don't include human factor, player certain instances and stuff like that, it's all based on robotic stats. It's not based on player performances as well. Because one moment of brilliance instantly changes everything. One long shot changes everything. The Partey long shot. One long shot which has very low XG goes in and it changes everything. And that's why basically these stats are here. And those stats are very misleading in this instance. Because this is, again, as I said, solely based on stats. Not based on the fact that we are actually performing in a way. Cheers, Nathan. Cheers, Nathan, for dropping by. Big up, big up, big up. Exactly. Big up, Nick, as well. Shouldn't base everything on stats. Exactly. And this metric, what we see on the screen at the moment, is just based solely on stats. Solely on stats. Not just performances, player moments of brilliance and stuff like that. Underperforming, overperforming and everything. Because I could maybe agree with the fact that if Arsenal actually, everything is based solely on XG, right? Arsenal maybe shouldn't be 3rd on the table. But it doesn't include how good our defense is. How much XG we allow to our opponents to have. How our defense sometimes clutches up. Certain blocks, certain instances, the way we block. They just put basically numbers into equation and they just calculated it. It doesn't matter. It's 10,000 times, 100,000 times. The outcome more or less is not going to change. It's just basically based solely on some random metrics, not actually on people themselves who actually perform on the pitch. And yeah. Anyways, transfer news. Transfer news. There are some reports, again, linking us today with Jonathan David from Lille. Jonathan David's contract runs out at the end of the season. And he apparently is very close to winning Player of the Month for September in Ligue 1 at the moment. I think he's competing there with Barcola from PSG, but Barcola has 3 goals and David has 4, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Arsenal, Spurs and United are among the host clubs of sides that are interested in Jonathan David. And apparently Jonathan David appears that he is not gonna sign a new contract at Lille and he's gonna look for bigger teams. He has openly admitted that he would love to play in Premier League. So obviously the teams that need a striker the most in Premier League, especially from the big teams, are on high alert. So yeah, and according to David, apparently is on course for another goal-laden season, obviously, having founded net 8 times in 12 matches so far. He already is on fire. Despite his age, the Canadian international boasts more than half a century of caps, over 150 career goals. Half a century of caps. Can you just say it's over 50 and that's it? Spurs, the Gunners, United have all taken note, along with likes of Chelsea, Newcastle, Juventus, Inter and Barcelona. The battle for the Cicers is poised to become even more competitive, with Football España reporting that David has decided not to extend his little contract that expires at the end of the season. So his contract runs out and there will be a swarming amount of top clubs in Europe circling around him and wishing he would sign for them. Obviously, the big question is, sorry, would you take Jonathan David at Arsenal? Would you take Jonathan David at Arsenal? Would he be the main guy? Would he be the backup or what? Because if David doesn't want to re-sign a new contract, it means that he's gonna move somewhere else. And we just read about 6-7 clubs Chelsea, Newcastle, Juventus, Inter Milan, Barcelona, United, and Spurs, and Arsenal, of course, all are interested, which means there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 of the top European pedigree clubs are interested in his services, especially since it's for free. And to be honest, each one of those clubs needs a goal scorer up top. David has proven that he can score goals to highest level consistently in Ligue 1 every single season. Obviously, it comes with the fact that it's Ligue 1 only, and you have to take that with some grain of salt, and obviously it would only actually depends on how he would adapt to Premier League. But at the same time, would you take Jonathan David at Arsenal? Because for me, it's a 50-50 one. If you get him for free, I would still need for Arsenal to sign a proper bagsman up top. For me, Jonathan David is like that one of the strikers you can sub on. He can start games here or there, but definitely should not be the main guy. Unless he proves me wrong, just like Kai Havertz is doing over the last, I would say, this year at least. Not the last year, but this year per se. Not this season, but this year. That is still the big question. Would you take Jonathan David at Arsenal? Would Mikel Arteta even want Jonathan David at Arsenal? Because in a way, I think he would fit very good at Arsenal. He can link up the play. He can shoot with either feet. He has good feet, left foot, right foot. He has good power, good technique, and good aim in those. And that is the big question. He has good movement of the ball as well. Would you take him? Because for me, Jonathan David is one of the strikers you could get, especially since he would be on free. Obviously, you would have to pay a bit of top since he comes a free agent and there are agent fees, and he can demand what he wants on signing on fees and stuff like that. But I still believe that we should sign another striker on top who is that top type of striker, like Gyökeres. Like, who knows what's going to happen with Isak, but for me, it's Gyökeres at the moment. Gyökeres or something like that, because there are also rumors flying around that Arsenal still haven't abandoned possibility of signing Benjamin Šeško next summer as well. So that is also a very interesting one to kind of follow slowly but steadily, because whether you like it or not, yes, transfer window closed a bit more than a month ago. Yet that means we are a bit more than a month closer to January transfer window and a bit more than a month closer to next summer transfer window. So it's kind of wild how this is going, but there's a possibility of this actually potentially happening. The big question is, would you take Jonathan David at Arsenal? That for me is the big question for you lot today. Would you take him at Arsenal? And the last one for today is the big question that is also in the title. Does Bukayo Saka need help in attack, or is he just missing Martin Odegaard? Because if you look at this image, there are 4 players in the box, there are 3 players on the edge of the box, and then there is Saka being double teamed, and his passing routes pretty much being covered, passing lanes being covered, and that only leaves 2 players, which is Gabriel and Saliba, out of this picture around the center circle for defensive options, just in case. And this is now the big question. Does Bukayo Saka need help in attack, or could he prevail? Because this at the moment is the big thing. He is double teamed by 2 defenders, which obviously makes it very hard for him to cut in, cut back, pass it off, or even cross. He basically is out of options in these situations. And obviously you could say it's mostly because he's missing Martin Odegaard. But that again raises the big question, why there isn't a plan B for the instance that Martin Odegaard isn't there? That still kind of raises that big question. Why isn't there a plan B, since Martin Odegaard obviously has been out now for quite some time, and it looks like he will be out for quite some time? And that is for me the biggest question, because for me there should be someone kind of floating around in that Martin Odegaard role. Either it's Trossard, either it's someone else, but there should be someone in there to, in this instance, give that extra help for Bukayo Saka. Obviously, if you look at Thomas Partey, who is at the edge of the box, number 5, obviously, if that was Ben White or Yuri Timber, you 100% would say that they wouldn't be there where Thomas Partey is at the moment. Most likely they would be overlapping him, thus dragging away one or two defenders, which would give Bukayo Saka more room, more space to operate, either take on defender, either to cross the ball of his weak foot or do something else. But we didn't have that, because obviously White was injured, Timber had a bit of a knock, hopefully he gets better and he's back after the international break together with Ben White. But that again raised the question, if we have to play Thomas Partey again, and our first game is away at Bournemouth, we could come back and we could kind of return in a way to same image just against Bournemouth, where they are double teamed on Bukayo Saka, we have 4 players in the box, defenders are pretty much covering our attackers, and they're covering all the passing lanes to the edge of the box, whether it's to Jorginho, whether it's to Thomas Partey, whether it's to Calafiori, and again Bukayo Saka is out of options. And this image, as good as it looks, because you would expect Bukayo Saka create something, at the same time kind of shows the game plan that while Odegaard isn't there, is kind of slowing down our attack, and is helping our opponents to defend. Because Bukayo Saka is missing, especially with Ben White and Odegaard, or Timber and Odegaard not being there, having those passing options. There are no triangles, no runs, no overlaps, no undercuts, just simply to give a passing option, to drag away defender, to open up some space for Bukayo Saka to try and dribble and get past the defender too. And at the moment, obviously, if Timber comes back, obviously Partey won't be playing right back, which means there will be overlap option. There will be cut inside, get between defenders option. For example, because I can guarantee you that maybe if we look at the number 5 where Thomas Partey is, if there was Timber, you could kind of guarantee that either he would run around and overlap him for a cross, most likely, or he would run between the lines, between the Southampton's number 8, run in between the gap, and then Bukayo Saka could just chip the pass between the 2 defenders that are trying to cover him. And obviously he would be in there. That or even with the run that Timber makes, he would pull or drag away those 2 defenders that are covering all the passing lanes to Jorginho and to Calafiori also to a certain extent. Which now, at the end of the day, means that we were missing our main guys. Thomas Partey at right back, he did decent. I'm not gonna lie, he did quite decently there. The biggest thing about it is, though, you could see that our attack was struggling. And it was not only due to the fact that Jesus was there, that Sterling was there and stuff like that, but our right back option, which usually was one of the safe options because Ben White almost never was injured last season or season before that, same goes with Martin Odegaard, and we tend to attack quite predominantly through the right side with the triangles, with the undercuts, overlaps and stuff like that, it was messing up our attack and slowing it down. And this image could repeat itself against Bournemouth away and in other instances. So Arteta needs, in my opinion, to sit down in this international break and look specifically at situations like these, where basically we are out of options to attack. Because in this instance, I would say 95% of the time, these type of situations ends up with Bukayo Saka losing the possession. Either it goes out for a throw-in, either it goes out for a goal kick or corner kick or something like that. If it goes out for a corner kick, if you look at this image per se, that is the best outcome you can kind of wish for, because we are dangerous in set pieces and this is the best he can get out of the situation. But if he loses the possession and everything, again, we have to track back, we have to push back. And obviously, the Gabriel and Saliba that are closer to center circle, they're there, they will cover it. But to track back, Thomas Partey isn't the fastest, let's be real, to track back. Jorginho as well isn't the fastest to track back. So we will pretty much solely, in a way, will have to depend on Saliba, on Gabriel, and on Calafiori to track back. So it could play some cruel jokes on us if we don't resolve certain instances like this long term. Because the defensive plan in the first half was very decent from Southampton. Obviously, after the halftime, they kind of got a bit more cocky, grew a bit more in confidence, and they hold us to only 1 shot on target. We can about 12 shots, 1 on target. They thought, okay, if we keep this up, we actually can get something out of this game. And obviously, as soon as they scored, they kind of angered us, so they kind of got done over instantly almost. But for me, in certain instances, this is a very scary image because Bukayo Saka needs help desperately in these instances. Obviously, there were times when we ourselves as fans were looking at this. Why is he passing back to Ben White? Why is he passing back to Odegaard in these instances alone? And the one thing I think we were kind of overlooking now that we look at this image without White or Timber and Odegaard is the fact that he had options to pass the ball to. Here he doesn't have a passing option whatsoever. Nobody's making a run to open up. Nobody's doing anything. Because Bukayo Saka kind of has to maybe try an outside foot with his left foot, try a trivela cross or something like that. He may need to try and force the ball to Jorginho or someone else. And you can see that all the passing lanes are covered by the defenders. And that is actually a very, very bad option to have. Because only best outcome, in my opinion, from this instance is a corner kick. Rest of those instances are kind of lose situations because goal goes out for a goal kick, either you get a counter, or even if you manage to get a cross, more chances than not, it won't be a very quality type of cross, and defenders will read the situation, they will kick the ball out, and we'll have to start all over again, and over and over and over again, which tends to be the theme when you play against Arsenal, obviously, for most of the teams. So I think Arteta, I hope so, that he sits down during this international break and kind of tries to resolve these instances that Bukayo Saka basically isn't left in a no man's land alone without passing options. Because in this instance, specifically, in this image and in some other places, he actually was left alone. So I really hope it doesn't happen too often or doesn't happen at all. It just depends how Arteta finds a way to resolve this issue. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with that. But overall, yes, we got the win. But this image is a bit of a worrying one, let's just say that. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We got to the result at the end of the day. And let's just hope it just doesn't happen again. I guess let's just hope on that. But I think on that note, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. You have been freaking fantastic. If you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell. Subscribe, as I said. Comment. If you're watching this as a playback, leave a comment down below. You have been freaking fantastic. Big up Nick in the chat. Big up Nathan in the chat. Big up Big up Coach in the chat. You have been phenomenal. Hope everyone stays safe. Hope everyone stays fantastic. Have a great day tomorrow and see you guys then.